Ah, here it is, the one you've been waiting for, LG's new flagship OLED, the G5. Their high-end G lineup has been making the news for a few years now due to its excellent peak brightness, helped by LG's MLA layer, short for micro lens array. But, what's that you say? The new G5 doesn't have MLA? Indeed it doesn't. Instead, it uses LG's new primary RGB tandem panel in all models, aside from its biggest 97-inch model. Hi, I'm Marco from RTINGS.com, and I'm about to tell you how bright this new model gets. And I will also unfortunately have to tell you that this new model has some serious caveats, at least for now. Like previous LG OLEDs, the LG G5 uses a WOLED panel, but this 2025 model brings some big improvements. This is the first TV to use LG's new primary RGB tandem OLED panel, at least on its sizes below 97 inches, which is designed to improve color purity and expand the range of colors the TV displays. It still utilizes a white subpixel to boost brightness, but it doesn't dilute color purity nearly as much, so you get a much better separation between blues, greens, and reds. LG also changed the subpixel layout. Instead of the RWBG layout they've been using since they first introduced their OLED panels, the G5 is different. It appears to use an RGBW layout, but the first subpixel is blue. So, does this new panel bring with it image quality improvements? Is it brighter than MLA? You bet it is. As of this review, this is easily the brightest OLED we've ever reviewed. It reaches amazing highs, seriously, over 2400 nits in smaller highlights. It even maintains upwards of 400 nits in fully lit scenes. This is an OLED, right? These are the type of numbers we used to have on high-end LED TVs just a few short years ago. And if you're not satisfied with that, you can always turn on dynamic tone mapping. Now, we wouldn't necessarily recommend it as it goes against the content creator's intent, but the TV's performance in real scenes is insane with DTM on. It's just hard to believe how bright this TV is. And it's even just as bright in game optimizer mode. And, of course, all that comes with perfect blacks, no blooming, and no zone transitions, regardless of whether you're in game optimizer or not. But then, some of you might be wondering if LG has finally bridged the gap with QD OLED when it comes to colors. In HDR, it almost catches up to QD OLED, as its color volume is amazing. As expected, it displays dark, saturated colors very well, but it also does amazingly well in displaying bright colors, which isn't fully surprising considering how bright this TV gets. Still, this is a huge upgrade from last year's G4. Not only are its HDR colors amazing, they're also impressively accurate, especially in their white balance, which is fantastic. There's just a bit too much blue and brighter grays, making the TV's color temperature just a bit too cold overall. The colors are mostly on target, but warmer tones do have a fair amount of mapping errors. But it's good. Purists might want to calibrate the TV, but most people will be very happy with this TV just by putting it in filmmaker mode. And we're not done. Worried about HDR brightness accuracy? Don't be, because it's also amazingly accurate here. This TV really respects the content creator's intent, at least if you have dynamic tone mapping off, of course. There's a small roll-off near the TV's peak brightness that retains details and highlights, but that's only useful for content mastered at 4000 nits, since the TV is bright enough to fully display most content mastered at 600 and 1000 nits. Woo! This TV is superb in HDR, isn't it? You might be thinking, I'll stop watching right now and go buy one. But the G5 has an unfortunate problem when watching HDR10 content, which is quite common for streaming platforms and for gamers on a PS5 console. Look here. Notice something? We're showing you Dolby Vision shots next to HDR10 shots, and it's easy to see how different they look. There's a strange contouring issue in dark scenes in HDR10 content, adding banding and overall making HDR look quite unattractive. This is a glaring issue, and frankly, it kind of ruins the TV's HDR presentation, for now at least. Stay tuned to our website in case LG releases a firmware update to fix this. The TV has diagonal lines on the panel that appear as a result of dithering. These are only apparent when sitting very close to the screen, and most people won't notice them when watching from a normal distance, but it's still disappointing. Alright, sorry about that. We know that's all very disappointing. Thankfully, that HDR10 issue isn't a problem when watching SDR content. Finally, we've done it. We have an OLED that is very bright in SDR. Until now, SDR was one of OLED's Achilles heel, as it just never quite popped nearly as much as their HDR presentation, and it was particularly jarring when comparing an OLED to an LED TV. But this TV maintains almost 800 nits in real content, which is extremely bright. Too bright for many people. It's even capable of hitting 1000 nits in scenes with smaller highlights, and it sustains around 470 nits even in extremely bright scenes. Frankly, this TV is bright enough in SDR for well-lit rooms, which is a first for OLEDs. At least one with a glossy coating. Speaking of coatings, this TV handles reflections very well. It does a great job of reducing the intensity of direct reflections, such as from lights or windows placed directly opposite the screen. It does an even better job in mixed lighting environments, like when you have both ambient lighting and direct sources of light hitting the screen. It's incredible how dark the G5 looks even when in very bright rooms, as its blacks rarely raise in well-lit contexts. See how it looks compared to a TV that struggles with mixed lighting sources. Unfortunately, it doesn't come for free, as there is some light banding around direct reflections. But really, that's nitpicking a little because it's excellent. And we're not done. Not only does it handle reflections and lights very well, but its colors also stay vibrant and bright even in very bright rooms. This means that no matter how much light you throw at it, colors keep looking vibrant and saturated. Finally, something this TV is not absolutely amazing at: SDR colors. This is kind of an overstatement, as it's great. It almost fully displays the DCI-P3 color space, but it's not nearly as good with the BT2020 space, covering only about 70% of it. It isn't as bad by any means, but this is one area where QD OLED still has a clear edge. At least this TV really doesn't struggle with accuracy. You thought it was accurate in HDR? Well, it's even more accurate in SDR. You heard that right. Though there are still few minor issues. It's still a bit too cold overall, and some of its shades of gray are too bright and others too dark. As for color accuracy, it's incredible, with only very minor mapping errors. Like all OLEDs, this TV's viewing angle is excellent. That said, this is one area where QD OLED has taken a lead lately, as LG's panels, while having amazing viewing angles, aren't perfect. There's some noticeable color shifting from a 30-degree angle onward, and it's noticeable, even if not very distracting, unless you're watching the TV at an extremely wide angle. Past a 60-degree angle, the TV also suffers from some brightness loss, color washout, and even some gamma shifting. Stay within 60 degrees and the TV looks just fine though. Alright, now back to things that the TV is extremely good at, and this time it's image processing. Seriously, this TV has some of the best image processing we've ever seen. Possibly the first model to truly challenge Sony as best-in-class TV for image processing. First, this TV's low-quality content smoothing is excellent. It smooths out almost all of the macro blocking from noisy scenes, and it does that by barely reducing overall detail level. And its upscaling is even better, doing a truly outstanding job with low-resolution content like DVDs or standard definition feeds. Yeah, some fine details are still hard to make out when you look for them, but holistically, this looks about as sharp as low-res content can get. The TV can't be good at everything, right? Well, yeah, it kinda can, as it's also good with HDR native gradient handling. Still, we've seen better performance from other models, as there's noticeable banding in all grays and in brighter greens. Of course, it's even worse in game optimizer mode due to the TV's HDR10 issue. For gamers, well, again, this TV has that contouring issue we talked about earlier. Xbox gamers can avoid it by just toggling Dolby Vision support in the system's display options, but PS5 owners have no such luck, as the PS5 only supports HDR10. If you're a PlayStation gamer, do not buy this TV unless it gets a firmware update to fix the issue. Otherwise, it's a great gaming TV, and it supports both 120Hz and 165Hz at 4K. While 165Hz support is great for PC gamers, the TV's input lag is surprisingly high at that refresh rate. It's decidedly low enough for a good gaming experience, but normally having a higher refresh rate ensures a lower input lag, not higher. The TV doesn't support 144Hz, so PC gamers who aren't satisfied with 12 milliseconds of input lag will have to go down to 120Hz, where the input lag is a more expected 5.3 milliseconds. The TV has 4 full HDMI 2.1 ports, with all 4K at 165Hz support. It also has Wi-Fi 6E with full support for the 6 GHz band. And, of course, it supports Dolby Vision. However, LG dropped DTS audio pass-through on their models, so you'll need a receiver if you want to get DTS audio from your media. Alright, let's make some comparisons. Just remember that as long as the G5 has its HDR10 issue, we can't really recommend that anyone buy it. Outside of the HDR10 issue, the LG G5 is a clear improvement over its predecessor. The G5 is brighter overall, especially in SDR. This makes it much more capable in brighter rooms, and it has better reflection handling overall, as its black levels and colors barely degrade in brighter context. Although, at the cost of some light banding when hit by direct sources of light. Plus, it's more colorful than the G4, and it has slightly better image processing. For gamers, it's capable of gaming at 165Hz, while the G4 is limited to 144Hz. Although the G4's input lag is lower at its maximum refresh rate than the G5 is. Also, keep in mind that the G4's viewing angle is wider than the G5's. But overall, the G5 would be the obvious choice over the G4 if it didn't have its HDR10 issue. And if you're hesitating about the G5 due to its high price tag, but would like to stick with a 2025 model, consider LG step down the LG C5. Just like the G5 and the G4, the C5 is a big improvement over its predecessor, the C4. Heck, the C5 is almost as bright as the G4, except in game mode, where LG's C-series model once again loses a lot of its brightness. But there's no doubt that the C5 is an extremely good TV for its price. And while it doesn't hit the extreme peaks of the G5, it's still one of the best OLEDs on the market. Although unfortunately, it has the same issues as the LG G5, but to a slightly lesser extent. You don't want to go with a lower performing LG C5 and instead would like a TV with comparable performance? Then consider Samsung's S95F, the G5's primary competitor this year. Both TVs perform very similarly, with some critical differences. The biggest of them are their different coatings, with LG going with a traditional glossy coating and Samsung once again opting for matte. While we've already seen how well-rounded the G5's coating is, the S95F has both massive pros and cons. First, it handles direct reflections extremely well. So well that you often just can't see any glare at all. It also does very well with mixed lighting sources, although whether you prefer it to the G5 is a matter of preference. The Samsung smears glare on the screen, spreading it out, while the G5 reduces their intensity to a lesser degree than the Samsung, without any smear, but with some light banding. One advantage of the G5's implementation is that its black levels barely go up, if at all, in brighter rooms, while the S95F struggles with displaying deep blacks in bright rooms. Otherwise, the Samsung has the wider viewing angle, comes with Samsung's One Connect box, has slightly faster pixel transitions, and has lower input lag at 165Hz, and is the more colorful of the two TVs, especially in SDR. The LG G5 is, however, brighter in HDR and SDR, but not by much. Typically, we'd lean slightly towards the G5 due to its versatility and its Dolby Vision support, but once again, it has too many problems at the moment to recommend it over the S95F. And don't worry, we'll have our full reviews of both the S95F and the LG C5 coming soon, so stay tuned for those. So, should you buy the LG G5? In terms of pure measurements, it's one of the best TVs we've ever tested. But for now, we can't really recommend it. Its HDR10 issue is too important to ignore. Its high input lag at 165Hz is a bummer. And overall, the TV needs a solid firmware update or two. We'd recommend sticking to last year's G4 or this year's LG C5, especially when they're being sold for a cheaper price than the G5. Or instead, go for the Samsung S95F. If LG ever fixes their issues, then the G5 will likely be one of the best, if not the best TV of the year. We'll keep you updated. That's our look at the LG G5 OLED. Are you disappointed at its issues? Or are you willing to ignore them in favor of this TV's otherwise stellar performance? Do you prefer to shop for something else? Let us know in the comments, and check out our full written reviews in the description below. Until next time, I'm Marco from RTINGS.com, where we help you find the best products for your needs. Are you disappointing at its issues? Are you disappointing? Wow! Wait for me to just assume, you know? You're doing great. I'm proud of you. Whoever you're watching, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm adding words again. Why am I doing that? Brain, read what's on screen.